Ron Hextall and Brian Burke are both out in Pittsburgh. The president and the GM are gone. Um, I've been wanting to say this for a couple of days now. I think if you're out there and you believe Brian Burke doesn't deserve any sort of criticism from this, and he wasn't making big decisions, I don't think you know who Brian Burke is. Alex, did you read
Yeah.
his book, or was it just Daniel? I can't remember.
I don't have it's on I need to go buy it, but I haven't had the chance to go to Indigo. So
So, if you've ever heard him ever tell a story, or you've read his book, do
yeah,
you
yeah.
really think that Brian Burke is going to go into a position with Sidney Crosby and not want some sort of control? He is right there with Ron Hextall. If you don't think Brian Burke deserves any criticism from this and shouldn't be gone at the same time, you are delusional. I have been
Yeah.
sitting on that for days now.
You don't have to read his book to figure that one out. You could watch him on TV. Like it's
And
that
he'll
simple.
mention about having to have
Yeah.
a hand on the wheel when he's back working for Sportsnet in a few weeks, which apparently he's going to do, and I'm very excited for. But come on, people. There's a reason he got fired upstairs to Calgary a couple of years ago. All due respect to Brian, but Stanley Cup champion.
Mhm.
But I have been hearing that all week, and no, it's Brian Burke, guys. Okay, let's talk about this. Not surprising, I'd say. When you're the guys who accidentally, you didn't mean to do this, but when you are the group that ends Sidney Crosby's playoff streak, um, and I think Pryor's gone as well, and apparently he was the one who pushed them to get Michael Granlund. Oh boy, instant reaction, lads. Well, not instant because it happened a few
Yeah.
days ago, but you know what I mean.
I'm not surprised that it happened. I think both of them being gone, I think, was definitely a bit of a shock. Do I think Brian Burke deserves some level of criticism for what had happened? Absolutely. I was just surprised both of them had been gone. I know, they both came in at the same time, so I wouldn't obviously I'd imagine there was some sort of agreement that Burke was fine with Hextall, but I was just surprised that Brian Burke didn't have the chance to bring his own guy, literally his own guy in. But I'm not surprised that Ron Hextall was fired. I just the last 16 months have not been particularly fantastic for that franchise. Just with some of the moves that they've made. And then, you talk, Adam, like you always bring up how Kyle Dubas with Dubas, and funny, we talk about Dubas here.
Yeah, great.
I'm sure we're going to get there.
Yeah.
You talk about Dubas, with the cap dubs and stuff like that. And absolutely, like hands down, he does that. But I'd make the argument when he does that, there's something else that comes out of that. If you look at Richie, you got Labushkin out of it. With Mrazek, I mean, you move down. It's not like you completely lost yourself a pick. You moved down in the draft. Something could come out of that. With Hextall signing Kasperi Kapanen, who was a healthy scratch during that season, to then throw him on waivers and lose him for absolutely nothing. Dumping Brock McGinn. Ricard Raquel last year, great move, but that's not enough. It wasn't the top six that was necessarily the issue. You didn't address your goaltending needs. You shuffled that. Daniel said last episode, you shuffled the deck on D and you didn't get better. And I think that's what led to his downfall.
I think, it is a difficult task to continue building around an aging star core, I believe. And that's what they tried to do. But I think they were getting guys that I believe that they thought would play above what we've already seen. It's not like they were acquiring all these young guys hoping they'd develop in some way. I think you knew what the product was and you expected it to improve you in some way. I see it this way where, you bring Kasperi Kapanen. We knew what he already was in Toronto and you spent like crazy for him. You knew what Michael Granlund was. You knew what Jeff Petrie was, especially that last year in Montreal. You knew what you were getting with him. Doing all of these deals to really kind of just keep you at, I don't use this a lot, but just to keep you mid. I don't say that a lot, but you were just mid at this point. I don't know what they were expecting, hoping that, if we get into the playoffs, maybe just maybe we'll see something. I didn't agree at all with what Rod Hextall was doing there. I didn't like that there was so much emphasis on, for some reason, okay, like we saw there was so much shuffle in the bottom six and on defense when, like you mentioned, Alex, like goaltending should have been addressed in some way, but you kept bringing back Jari, kept bringing back Casey DeSmith, and I don't know what the legacy is going to be like with Brian Burke. I think that, it was just time to realize that, okay, management has to have this clean slate now because we still want to do something with the final playing days of Sidney Crosby. But it's just weird. It's like, it's not like he necessarily did anything that was drastic, but I don't know. It's weird to me to kind of assess like what is Brian Burke's legacy in Pittsburgh, because he did get them to the playoffs, but like this was just kind of the steam has run out. I know I'm going on a tangent here, but there's just one thing I also want to mention too. I wrote in my notes about Pittsburgh as well is even before this management came in, they learned how to be really good without draft picks, without getting those high draft picks for so long. But I think that their luck run out. Like they had the Brian Russ, they had the Jake Gensel type of guys that helped them with their cup runs, and it's like they were content with that, and then they just didn't do anything else afterwards.
You actually you took the point I was gonna say. Like, where are the Mark Donks?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Where are the Buzz Flibbits? What happened there? What happened? That was what made Pittsburgh special for so long. You lost your Mark Donks. You lost your diamonds in the rough. And that was filling in Pittsburgh's teams for years. And they just you never want to give too much crap for quote drafting and developing for teams like that. They're just constantly throwing picks at the wall. But it's like they were a threat the past couple of years. Sidney Crosby is always going to be a threat. Chris Letang, Evgeny Malkin and that, but it's just the big problem with those old Sharks teams, for example, like, Pete Thornton and that. They were great, but they never had the depth. And then you saw when they eventually played Pittsburgh in the finals. I mean, those runs for Pittsburgh, it was their depth, despite all the injuries and that really carried them. And you didn't have that anymore. You got away from your identity. That's the big problem with Pittsburgh and what's happened there.
I think, though, to be fair, and I'm not trying to deflect blame off of Hextall or the Hextall and Burke, but I think that's also a reflection of the last couple of years of the Jim Rutherford era in Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
because you get the Mark Donks, you get the Buzz, or in Pittsburgh's case, you get the Teddy Blugers, you get the Sam Laffertys, you get the pick a name, like literally pick a name, make one up. You get them by drafting and developing, and they don't come within 2 years. They come after 4 or 5 years, whether it's playing in the QWHL, like going through the AHL. And I think this is a reflection of the last couple of years of the Jim Rutherford era, which they were after those 2 cup runs. It wasn't particularly peaches and roses or whatever the saying is. Losing to Montreal in the play-in round in the bubble, like it wasn't great, right? So I think it's also a reflection of the last couple of years there, and I wonder if new ownership, who by my understanding which is FSG, who owns I know they own Liverpool in the Premier League. I don't remember what other teams they own. I'm going to search up real quick, but yeah, I think the Red Sox too. The Red Sox, Penguins, and Liverpool. My understanding is they're quite analytically driven. So I wonder if we're going to get that more of approach with the new management group who comes in, because bringing in Hextall and Burke did not scream analytics to me.
Okay. So there was, I think Haley, no God, not Haley. Oh my God. Shayna Goldman was putting something out, or she was quote tweeting something, and names like is it Alex Mendricky, the one who used to work in Minnesota,
Mhm.
got fired. How funny would it be? God damn it! Shout out to Paul Fenton being awful. Names in that. Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to entertain a Kyle Dubas conversation until the Leafs are done in the postseason, whether it's a cup or anything. Here's a name I would think of, and let's be honest. Um, if there is an organization that can outbid the Leafs, it's going to be probably Fenway. And
I
I
don't think
mentioned that.
so. I
Hold
don't
on,
I
hold
don't
on,
think
hold
so
on,
though.
hold on. Because here's what they could do. I'm not even talking about Dubas. I'm just mentioning that this is a team that has money.
Okay.
Who's another really oh sorry, Dubas isn't unknown. Who's a really analytically minded, unknown individual who might want a GM job in the East and has built a
Yep.
very good hockey team, even if he isn't
Tyler
the
Dello.
GM? Hmm?
Tyler
No,
Dello
not Tyler Dello.
in Carolina.
Is he? Isn't it? It's not Dello
Right.
in Carolina, is it?
Who
It's
is
the
it?
guy in Carolina. Why can't I
Yeah,
remember his
yeah.
name?
Is it not? That,
No, it's not
sorry.
Dello. It's
Oh,
Eric Tolsky.
Eric Tulsky. That's
That's it.
that's who I meant.
That's who I would think of.
Yeah,
Because here's the
Yeah.
thing: Dubas you'll have competition. Tolsky, you may as well, but like I think like the better bet is to go with Tolsky because you're not competing with the Leafs for a guy who, let's be honest, if they win rounds, the Leafs are going to throw everything they can to get him. So why not, or to retain him? Go get Eric Tolsky. I mean, look at
Uh,
Carolina. That's a perfect example of a very, very like team that's run well. Or again, hell, you go with Mandricky or someone else, but for the love of God, people, can we get a bit more creative here? I was thinking of Tolsky all week the moment I
yeah,
saw that analytics thing.
I wouldn't be awfully surprised, but not. What do I know?
It's just it's I don't know. The moment I saw that Dubas thing, I was like, great, okay, I can't wait for this. Playoffs haven't even started
Can
yet,
I
and we're
just
doing this
add can
already.
I just add something to that though? Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, Danny.
Yeah,
I
I
know
was
I'll let
done.
you
Go
do.
ahead.
But the conversation. So from what I read about this Dubas thing is they both agreed that they would not talk during the season. Both. Let me repeat myself. Both MLSE and Kyle Dubas both agreed that they would not talk about a contract extension midseason. So this massive idea that it's MLSE, and listen, man, they're an organization who tried to stiff Masai Ujiri. They did. Whoever the CEO of Rogers was at the time was trying to be a smartass and not bring and try to stiff Masai Ujiri. It happened. So I don't blame people for their thoughts about this. But the matter of the fact is they've both decided that. So that's all I'm going to add to that. I don't want to talk about it. Anything else about Kyle Dubas and the contract? But Daniel, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I kind of I was gonna say that as well. I was about to bring the Messiah example,
Oh,
but yeah, I kind of felt that too. Where I I don't. Okay, we always say, oh, it's let's just try to make it about Toronto, but I don't think that's at that conversation at this point right now. We could bring up all the memes, we could bring up all the excuses of, oh yeah, first round, all these things, but until it's all said and done, I think we definitely don't talk about that. I don't think the Pittsburgh situation is reminiscent of what's going on in the Toronto situation of things. I think with Pittsburgh, they had the opportunity to do things, and I think they did too much of. Okay, this makes it. They did too much of doing nothing, if that makes sense. I think Kyle Dubas didn't do that. Again, bringing up 2015 Blue Jays comparison, they went all in and they got the right guys who have fit into this team seamlessly. We'll wait and see. It's not going to be a completely changing of the guard with Toronto. Maybe we'll see, but it's just not a comparison you make at this point.